Right, I'll get into the economics on the economics panel in just a moment. I want to go to this issue at Oxford University. Very prestigious, as you know, Oxford in Britain. They'll be offering black students who've been traumatised by the death of George Floyd the opportunity to reduce their workload and receive special consideration in their exams. In an open letter to the university, the Vice-Chancellor, Louise Richardson, wrote that she's encouraging all the tutors, quote, to reach out to any black students who may be experiencing difficulty at this time. Well, a lot of criticisms followed. A UK MP, Ben Bradley, has tweeted, fed up of seeing so many middle-class white people apologise for being middle-class white people and making condescending offers to promote equality by treating BAME people differently to everyone else. Now, BAME's a term used in the UK to reference black, Asian and minority ethnic. It's time now for my economics panel. Joining me tonight, the Herald Sun's Terry McCrann in Sydney and the other way around. Terry McCrann would be in Melbourne, I presume, and Adam Creighton, the Australian economic editor in Sydney. Now, I put that at the top of the show. Adam, you're an Oxford alum. What did you make of that decision?
Look, it's just extraordinary, I think, that the University of Oxford is caving into such virtue signalling. I mean, I'm extremely disappointed. But just on the subject matter itself, I mean, really, it's quite, I would say, racist or even derogatory of black people to assume that they're all the same, they have the same feelings, and that you know, they all have, you know, need the same sort of exemptions. I mean, you know, it's quite possible that a white or an Asian student at Oxford could be very distressed by the death of George Floyd, and so, you know, I just don't understand the policy rationale. It's very disappointing.
Right, I want to go into an article, Adam, you've written in The Australian today about a boost to our spending data. The latest data shows CBA customers have spent 6% more on their credit and debit cards, and Roy Morgan's weekly confidence index rose for the 10th time in 11 weeks. Are we getting through this, do you think?
Well, look, it must be stressed that's off a very low base. The month of April was absolutely dreadful for spending, but it is true we are coming out of the rut. And look, most of the data now is relatively optimistic given where we were. And the spending intentions, the Commonwealth Bank did a survey of spending intentions, and based on that, people wanted to spend more on retail outlets and also entertainment, so that was very promising. That said, you know, it's still early days. You know, these massive government programs haven't been withdrawn yet, so I think the crunch time is really going to be in September, when we get an idea of how permanent the economic damage is.
And Terry, look, you've written about this, but of course, once JobKeeper is withdrawn, that's the employment component, not the double dole. Once JobKeeper's withdrawn, that's when we're really going to see the state of the economy, isn't it?
Well, I think clearly, Peter, we found out pretty quickly that we were panic-stricken about the virus itself. Those predictions of 50,000 to 150,000 deaths was completely outrageous and ridiculous, and pretty much the same thing I think happened with the economy. So we didn't go down as far as everybody feared in Canberra back in March. But as you say, the big question is, and Adam, what happens when the JobKeeper ends at the end of September? So the crunch comes in October rather than in September. Now, hopefully, we will have had the lockdowns ended. The basic real economy will be getting back to some sort of reality, and so that the withdrawal won't be that dramatic. But yes, that will be the big question.
Right, Adam, talk to me about this Chinese company in New South Wales, connections to the Communist Party. It's likely to get the tender to build Water New South Wales' new Glennies Creek and Glenbourne Dam hydro projects in the Hunter Valley. The company is called Gold Wind Australia, and it shipped Australian medical supplies to China during the pandemic. And I know a lot of people were very angry about that at the start of the year. Other companies, Australian companies, AGL and Meridian, have dropped out due to commercial viability issues. Is this where we're headed, that we get through this pandemic, we all sound in fury about wanting more Australian companies to build things in Australia, but we look like we're going back to the beginning?
Yeah, look, well, my understanding is that this has to go through the FIRB process still, and I think I imagine it could very well get knocked back. This particular company has already built in Australia solar and wind farms, I understand. They haven't built any hydro facilities. The problem with hydro is apparently it gives the company a greater role to influence the grid. So certainly that would have security concerns, which I imagine FIRB will look at. So I might be surprised if it gets through. I mean, part of the reason why there were no Australian bidders, I understand, is that the conditions on it were quite onerous. So maybe there's scope to relax some of those conditions.
Yeah, but that doesn't it tell you, Terry, that's the problem with the system? If Australian commercial players, AGL and Meridian, couldn't make this thing stack up, you've got to then say, well, why does Goldwind want to go into almost like a loss leader situation? Well, they do because they want to have their hands all over our energy mix, and that gives them enormous benefits with their Chinese paymasters. Surely that's the rationale. You know, we see it often. They underbid just to get in there. That was the case of Huawei in Britain for so long. That's where the scrutiny should be.
Peter, I think we should recognise the delicious Chinese sense of humour to call the company Goldwind. They know that selling wind power primarily to Australia is a licence to print money in China, not in Australia. They love it. And this is an extension of that, this ridiculous big battery idea of pumping water uphill to then let it flow down again. But you're absolutely right. I mean, everything that China does is to get into the space and then exploit it going forward. Well, it's not, not only China, obviously many countries and companies around the world do that. Get into the space at a low price and then milk it once you're in there. I would have thought that the big issue we have with this big battery is, what do we name it? Do we name it the Malcolm Turnbull big battery, or do we name it the Bob Carr big battery? I mean...
It's called ripping off the taxpayer, we're all idiots, big battery. That's what I'd name it.